The problem is I only teach one section of it, international finance. If I don't record this class, it's gone. But the other class, I teach two sections. If I don't record one, I can record the other one. So I believe, yes, record it. So what do you think? When the pegging, it used to be this one, Hong Kong want economic growth, economic stimulus. And they decided interest rate go down. Now it's easy to maintain the pegging. Is there impact? Any problem you see? We learned before midterm. Or no problem, should be fine. Everything should be fine. Think. US interest is still the same, right? But Hong Kong decided to lower the interest rate because we want to encourage borrowing for investors, right? We want to stimulate for investments. Investor can borrow, invest. So what do you think about the pegging exchange rate? Is there an impact you see? There is no impact. Think about the perspective we learn. Impact of interest rate on the exchange rate. Now, do you think people in US, if they have savings, they would love to forward more money to Hong Kong? Rather, they would love to withdraw money from Hong Kong, right? Right? Because interest is low in Hong Kong. Why should I send my money to Hong Kong? Even if the exchange rate is constant, no volatility. I'll be earning lower rate of return from Hong Kong if I have savings, right? Right? So there will be more demand for US currency. So it should be problematic to maintain the pegging exchange rate. Make sense? What about going to the original situations? Original situations. How many of you follow US economy? How many of you do not follow US economy? No one. How many of you spend time on the upstairs in front of Dean office? In front of Dean office from today, did you guys see any changes? If you have been to the upstairs in front of Dean office, did you guys see any changes? From today, there is a new TV where we are telecasting CNBC Pro. If you want to follow economy or whatever, stock market, just go there, look at it. You can see how interest rates are fluctuating, how stock market is fluctuating, or what the chair of Fed, Jerome Powell is trying to say, and you can follow what's going on. So now, coming back to the original discussion. So what right now the Federal Reserve System is trying to do in US to to fight with inflation? No idea what Jerome Powell is trying to do each quarter, something to fight with inflation. Increase interest rate. So now, to fight with inflation, US interest rate went up. No changes in Hong Kong. What do you think should be the impact on the pegged exchange rate? People will be rushing to US, right? If they have savings, right? To invest to get some more return. So that's why, second point, interest rate will move in tandem. That means if any home currency, any home country is trying to peg its currency with a foreign currency, they have to make sure that interest rate also moves in the same direction, if possible, of the same magnitude, so that they can hold the exchange rate over time. Make sense? Question so far? Now going back to that discussion. Another aspect of pegging. So if Argentina is really able to maintain a pegging with US dollar, okay? And US dollar appreciated. Let's say 20% against all other currency. US dollar appreciated 20%, let's say, against all other currency. Then what is your expectation with the Argentina peso? Appreciate, depreciate, stay the same with all other currency. Appreciate? Okay. If US dollar appreciate, Argentine peso should also appreciate against all other currency. Let's say Brazil is Argentina's trade partner, one of the most important trade partners. And I believe their currency is called maybe real or something like that. That means Argentina peso should appreciate against real too, right? Now, what do you think about impact of this event on Argentina in their international trade balance or balance of trade? Any impact should be there, no impact, or what is the expectations? What increase? Import increase? And what else? Okay, and any changes more? So import will be cheaper. That's the expectation, right? Right? Export will be expensive now. Right? So it's tough to say that Argentina will stop producing their goods, go for import. Tough to say, but import is definitely cheaper. If they want, they can import more. But for sure, Brazil will reduce import from Argentina because any import from Argentina now is expensive. Any export for Argentina to Brazil is now expensive. For sure, export will go down. So balance of trade basically decrease for sure for these events. And you can also expect the opposite impact, exactly opposite impact, if due to pegging, there is a depreciation in your currency. Exactly opposite impact, because due to pegging, if US dollar depreciate against all of the currency or country, Argentina peso should depreciate. Now, it is easy to increase export and reduce import. Make sense? Question so far about pegging, impact of pegging, and how it's affecting fund flow and how it's affecting balance of trade. Good so far? Okay. We talked about dollarization in the last class, right? Black market in the last class too. Okay, now we are moving on to something about European currency and impact of euro. I believe right now Eurozone is consists of 20 European countries, something around 20 European countries. The central bank they have is basically based in Frankfurt. That is not our concern. It could be based anywhere. But the main concern is the central bank decides the monetary policy for all of these 20 countries. Other than Eurozone, each country has its own central bank that decides the monetary policy, and the government decides the fiscal policy, right? Only in Eurozone, for those 20 countries, central bank decides the monetary policy for everyone, and each specific country, they decide the fiscal policy for themselves. Make sense? And by these two policies, the government actually makes sure economic activity, currency rate stability, inflation, unemployment, all of these issues, right? Let's say right now, Federal Reserve Systems trying to fight with inflation, right? With their monetary policy. At the same time, your government has their own fiscal policy, make sure economic activity, employment, all of these things, right? So two different entities within the country make sure overall economy of the US for Eurozone. One entity decides the monetary policy for 20 countries, and 20 different entities for each country, they decide the fiscal policy. So what is their objective? Counter inflation in those 20 countries, stabilize the value of euro, which is their currency. Stabilize the value of their currency. That is their objectives through the monetary policy. Now, what are some benefits? What are some impact? Within that 20 countries, price level are comparable. If anyone is providing or producing automobile, for the 20 countries, they'll be paying same euro value, right? Price is comparable for any product across the 20 countries. So that is one of the impact, that is one of the good objects. Also, investors, it's not about bond investors, for everyone who live in Eurozone and want to invest in Eurozone, don't need to concern about exchange rate risk. They earn in euro and report in euro. When you earn in one currency and report in the same currency, do not bother about exchange rate risk. Earn in different currency, report in another currency, you have exchange rate risk. You have to be careful. What are some true impacts or good things? Prices are comparable for anything. Prices are comparable. No exchange rate risk. Right? Now, what are some crises due to that? Before we talk about this, let's go over an history lesson that will help us to know about the impact. Do we know this country, Greece? Where is that? Right beside Mexico. Where is Greece? Yeah, somewhere in Europe. I exactly don't know exactly where it is, but it's somewhere in Europe, and that also within the Eurozone, like those 20 countries, they follow Euro as a country. So from 2010 to, I believe, 2017 or 2018, Greece was having a lot of issue in terms of economic activity. And over the years, for the 6, 7, or 8 years, they were consistently failing to pay their sovereign debt. So what is a sovereign debt? That means they're consistently failing to pay the debt taken by government. What are the reasons? They have very good compensation, very good packages for their government employees for nothing. They're paying for that, paying for the benefits. And for the cost of those compensation packages, they were actually failing to pay all of those loans, debts they have taken from within Eurozone or outside of Eurozone. And they keep asking for bailouts money, keep asking for bailouts loan throughout these 7 years or 8 years. And they keep, so after that, basically they keep reducing their packages for a lot of government projects, government employees, a lot of things, trying to increase the economic activity so that they finally able to reduce all those payments and finally able to get out of this crisis in 2018. And also, other than Eurozone banks, they also put money market funds of USA into trouble because of their do not have capacity to pay the short-term debts. Now, if I stop here, What is your opinion about that? What you can expect? If any country is not paying their debt, what you can expect for the financial institutions? What is the problem of the financial institutions who are giving money? Do you think it's good for the financial institutions? It's bad for the financial institutions? And why they're failing to pay the money? Why those banks, Eurozone banks, are still giving them bailout money? Why? Did you guys watch the Margin Call movie? And also, yeah, I think on the I have very bad memory in like remembering the movie's name, but I think on the Margin Call movie, it showed that they are trying to show that different financial institutions are giving Lehman Brothers, Goldman bailout money, right? So that they can get out, right? Get out of this crisis. So now, coming to our original discussions, like financial institutions, what is the impact of these activities by Greece, and also why financial institutions are keep providing the bailout money throughout the 6 or 8 years to save Greece? What are the motivations, and what you can see from that? What are the key? Forget about US. So I just give this example. Forget about US. Only talk about Eurozone banks and Greece. What is the expectations? What is Eurozone banks are going through? They're having any trouble or not? And if they're having any trouble or not, they're still giving the bailout money. Why? Okay. Anyone else? What is the problem with the banks and why they're still giving the bailout money? The problem with the bank is like they are not getting the interest payment, loan payment, right? So in the balance sheet, they are having a lot of bad loans. They have to provision for bad loans. And the income statement or balance sheet will look worse, right, to the investors. That's a kind of problem for the bank side and my institution side. At the same time, while they're doing the bailout money, the reason is if Greece can get out this crisis, Greece can get out this problem, they will pay back all of the loan value. They will pay back all of the loan value. So over the years, the amount that Eurozone banks provision for that loan, they will get back all of it. Next thing, that was the motivations for Eurozone banks to support Greece so that if Greece can get out of this crisis, they will pay back all of them. Now, what is the impact? What is the impact of this 8 years event by Greece on the banks in Eurozone? Banks in Eurozone, they actually rely each other for short-term funding needs. If one of the bank is having issues for short-term funding, they actually rely on the other bank. So due to this crisis, you can easily expect this problem will spread to other financial institutions too, right? Because let's say 5 banks from the Eurozone are lending money to Greece, and Greece is not paying back to these 5 banks. That means if another 2 or 3 banks are having difficulties or trouble time, they will not be able to borrow for short-term liquidity from that 5 banks. right? So problem in one bank will easily be spread with other bank. Make sense? Similarly, from the same example, Eurozone banks, they actually do a lot of syndicate loan. 5 or 10 banks combinedly lend one borrower. That's a Greece. So if Greece is not paying back, it's affecting a lot of different financial institutions. So that is the problem. So it's not about only that Greece is not paying money, it's affecting only those 5 banks. It is also affecting a lot of other banks because one bank can borrow from another. So these are some impacts of those events. Now, if you are a foreign investors, if you own an MNC, and if you listen this story, are you willing to invest in this? Yes or no? Do you want to make a new subsidiary in this? Do you want to acquire any company, new company in this? Yes? Then do it or do not do it. No, right? So news of this kind of concern actually affect economic activity of Euro area and subsequently affect the banking activities. Now, let's say if there is any issues that is affecting inflation or that is affecting unemployment of only Greece. Let's say inflation of Greece due to this activity increases way higher. How they can fight? What is the tools the country Greece has to fight with inflation right now? Do they have monetary policy? Each country has monetary policy to fight with that in Eurozone. Yes or no? Who does the monetary policy for Eurozone? Central bank, and that's specific for 20 countries. If Greece is having the problem, Greece cannot play with the monetary policy, right? They can only rely on fiscal policy. So if one country is having crisis, now they have one tool out of the two, and sometimes if they play with that tool very, very intensively, that can trigger the problem more. Because in the short run, if they want to fight with inflation through their fiscal policy, they may end up with a lot of deficit in the budget. They may end up with a lot of unemployment, which can lower the economic activity in the long run. Maybe in the short run, they look good, but in the long run, there are issues. And the most important problem in Eurozone is basically banks lend heavily to government. When banks lend heavily to government and government is unable to pay their sovereign debt, you decide what is the implication. Bank has a lot of bad loans. They are not performing well. At the same time, if other good banks who are not exposed to that government need any short-term liquidity, they cannot ask from those banks, right? So that's why if any government, any country is unable to pay, it has big issues. Any questions on the impact of Eurozone country crisis on other Eurozone countries and the Eurozone banks? There are some good things. If you have a zone, Eurozone or North American zone, something like that, there are some good things. You can avoid exchange rate risk, but good thing always comes with some cost. These are the costs that could affect other Eurozone countries or banks in the Eurozone. Because if banks do not have money to lend private corporate borrowers, this is a really, really big red flag to the economic activity. So let me tell you the real story of this Greece crisis on the US economy. So in 2010 or 2011, when US money market funds, they got the shock from Greece that Greece is defaulting on all of their short-term sovereign debt. They do not have money, right? Because they're supposed to get back the debt back from Greece, right? What is the implications? In the economy, there are good credit quality borrowers, bad credit quality borrowers, right? Bad credit quality borrowers, they are ready to pay you higher rate to secure the money, but they may default, right? If they default, what is the implication? Past institutions are not getting back the money. And as a result, they are not able to give or provide the money to the good credit rating quality borrowers, right? What are the implications? Good credit rating quality borrowers do not have the money to do the business, and there is a drop in the economy. And that's what really happened in 2011 Greece crisis on the US economy. And that also happened over the 6 or 7 years on the Eurozone countries. Because of Greece issue, banks in the Eurozone, they do not have sufficient money so that they can provide it to the good credit quality borrowers in other Eurozone countries. And other Eurozone countries have limited funds to do business and connectivity and experience drop in the economic growth. Questions so far? So these are some recent role of central bank in solving these economic issues. So recently, in recent years, they actually expanded to include providing credit for Eurozone countries that are experiencing financial crisis. If they do so, do you see any good thing of the economy or not? The ECB, the Central Bank of Eurozone, is providing money to the distressed or crisis countries. Do you think it's good? It's not good? It's bad? So if ECB provide the money, the good thing is that private banks, they do not need to provide a lot of money to the crisis country, so that they can save the money to provide private corporate borrowers for economic activity. So that's one kind of solutions if any country in the Eurozone faces a financial crisis. So that's a good thing. Second thing, ECB imposes restrictions intended to help resolve the country's budget deficit problems over time. So if any country, they're trying to play with fiscal policy that could trigger the problem in the future, our central bank has more control on that. So that any specific country going through crisis and trying to play with the fiscal policy to solve it, the ECB will gonna monitor that. Now, Britain get out of Eurozone, right? They did a Brexit. If any other country want to abandon, want to get out of it. What do you think? What should be the impact? If they decided we are not going to follow euro, we get out of it, we have our own currency, which we're going to use for trade. What could be the implications? One of the implications, they will be expelled or kicked out of the European Union. As a result, like the way now Britain is getting, so they will be having a lot of friendly trade conditions. Because if you belong to Eurozone, European countries, you will have a lot of friendly terms and conditions for international trade, which you're gonna miss if you get out of Eurozone. And after getting out of the Euro, Britain is going through a lot of those issues in terms of trade and other policies after Brexit. Now, another problem. If Britain is getting out of Eurozone, or if they're doing the Brexit, now they're going to establish their own currency, right? Let's say pound. Now there is lower demand for euro, right? So the value of euro could go down. So that could be another problem. And also, exchange rate risk. If you go out of euro, your country will face exchange rate risk. So these are some issues if you get out of Eurozone or you get. That could be even true, let's say, if some other countries in Europe or Asia, they make another zone, let's say Asian zone, hypothetically. If they do it, they'll have similar benefits, no exchange rate risk within those countries. If they do it, they may get favorable terms and conditions for trade. If they do it, price will be comparable among those countries. At the same time, if someone is abandoning, getting out of it, that country will face these problems. Questions so far? All good. Next class, we want to do interventions. Okay. Like why government do direct or indirect interventions so that they can have smooth exchange rate movements. Make sense? All good so far? Okay. See you in the next class.